Hey, everybody. Have you ever wondered what your pet is thinking? I certainly know that I have looked at my dog many a times and talked to him, and he does the little tilt of the head. And then I look at him sometimes and I think, what is he thinking? We all have probably, all of you pet owners probably have thought, what the heck is my cat, my dog, my fish, and maybe even your raccoon or your squirrel? Whatever your pet is, or your horse. You probably often wondered, what are they thinking? Well, my next guest knows exactly that. She is a modern day Dr. Doolittle. We all remember Dr. Doolittle from back in the day. And on this episode, I am joined by Miranda Alcott and, for the first time ever, my sister Lisa, who really introduced me to Miranda, and that's why I got her on the podcast. She is a storyteller, but coming right from your pet. And she speaks telepathically to them. She doesn't even have to see them in person. And my sister approached me one day and said, my cat is not getting along. All the cats are not getting along with my new dog, who's about 110 pounds or 120 pounds. She has a new German Shepherd, does not get along with the cat. She wants to talk to this woman to find out what she can do to solve the problem at home. So we got Miranda on the podcast, and today she is going to tell us what is going on at my sister's household. And she also spoke to my dog, Arthur. So get ready for a fun episode of Talking to Your Animals.
A very, very commentary.
Like, this is so, I've never had my sister on the podcast before, so I'm so excited for that too. But let me introduce Miranda Alcott. Miranda, we are so excited to have you on the podcast because my sister's been a fan, I've been a fan, and I want the world to know what you do because you're just incredible. And both of us had a private session with you yesterday. So before we get started, tell everybody about your special gift.
Well, I want to say it used to be called a special gift. The wonderful thing is that we all have these gifts, they're skills. And depending on our culture, depends on whether we allow them to flourish and use them. And we're at a time on this planet right now where we need to be using them, thank you very much, as often as we can. So I feel so blessed. I came into this life remembering more than most. And I couldn't understand why people didn't know where they just were. How can you not know where you just were? So I had a lot of humility in learning about that and knowing I knew that I came to teach, but I wasn't sure what and how that was going to happen. So I feel very blessed to be able to do what I get to do. And I grew up in a household where when I was 3 years old, my mother said, honey, that's really nice, but keep it in the house. So it's like,
So
I
you
went, okay,
found that
something.
you were like you were talking to the animals at a really young age? Like
Yes. Oh, yeah.
they were speaking to you.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, there was one time when I was 3 years old. I was out in the garden and I was playing with the ladybugs. And my mom came out and said, we have company coming. You need to come in and change your clothes. And it's like, why would I want to do that? I was playing with the ladybugs. I don't care who these people are. You're related to them. They're your great aunt and uncle. You need to meet them. It's like, ugh, I can't believe I'm doing this. But anyway, so the ladybugs said, no, you need to go. They're important. So I went in and I did get dressed and I met them. And later I found out, later as in just a few years later, that my great uncle was one of the original scientists and Egyptologists to enter King Tut's tomb, photographing all of that. And this is who I got to meet. And they had just come back from Egypt and, on different trips there. So I was born into a family that had these interesting things happening, and then parents who had to figure out how to deal with me, so
So for listeners, George was my 10-year-old Yorkie that passed away a couple of years ago. at the bite of a coyote or a mountain lion. I still don't know what actually bit him, but he passed away in my arms, and I've had really hard time getting over George. So we had a private session. My sister and I both had each private sessions with Miranda yesterday, where Miranda spoke to my current dog, Arthur, who's 4 years old, and George intervened, my deceased dog, last night or yesterday as well. And Lisa, you had a private session with Miranda because why? Tell why you were anxious to talk to her.
Well, I was anxious to talk to her. First of all, because I saw her on this program and I was really impressed with what she did. And I had contacted you and said, Mary, you really need to get her on your podcast because she's amazing.
Yeah.
But I was having, or am having, difficulty between my three cats and my dog. The cats are between 9 and 7 years old, and my dog is 18 months, 17 and a half months or so. And he is a 110-pound German Shepherd. So the cats are terrified of him because of his size. And of course, he's a puppy, so he wants to play with them and he chases them down and they're frightened. So they have recently confined themselves to the basement because he won't go down there and I have the door so he can't get down there. But they can't live in the basement. They need to come back up and be a part of their house. So I wanted Miranda to talk to both sets and see what we could do to get the cats out of the basement and the dog to stop chasing the cats.
So that brings me to, that's such a interesting story. I didn't know that they were all hiding out down in the basement. I mean, but the dog has such a massive bark. But this is where, Miranda, you talk about this harmonized living, right? What exactly does that mean?
Understanding different cultures other than ours,
Oh,
in a
see.
nutshell. Because we can't say, you need to get over wanting to chase the cats when you're saying it to a dog that is by nature herding things that are on the ground.
Mhm.
And so we have to put it in context of what are we asking this dog to do? The same thing with the cats. You know, the dog wants to know why the cats don't want to play. And puppies love to play. And they don't mean any harm. But at 117 pounds, they can wipe out humans accidentally,
Yeah, yeah.
Well, exactly. So we have to be careful about that. So getting each of them to somewhat understand the other one is a beginning of it. And then communicating, yeah. And then communicating between
To
them.
say that while Miranda and I were talking, I stopped her and I said that I have a baby gate up in between the kitchen and the family room. And that's where the dog is when I don't want him roaming the rest of the house. And he was in that area, and that's where I was talking to Miranda. And I looked through the gate, and the mama cat was sitting there, and he walked right up to the gate, sniffed her, and then turned around and walked outside. And that's not his normal behavior. And that was after Miranda had talked to him. He he sniffed her, went outside, and normally what he would do is stand at the gate, sniff, whine, bark, jump on the gate, try to get through the gate. He didn't do any of that. He just stopped, sniffed, and walked out.
So I have a question. So what did you talk to him about? Because Lisa and I have not discussed what your session was about. So what did you say to Bo? That's her dog's name. What did you say to him that he would possibly just go, ah, okay, and walk away?
Part of what I said was to understand who he is. I understand you want to play. And that is so much fun. But these little ones are so much littler than you are. I talked to him about how hard his head is and that humans are fragile. And so are little kitties fragile. And then I talked to him about that the most important thing was to leave them alone for right now. And that's challenging and frustrating because he wants to play and he has extra energy. So we can't be saying to someone, I know you have energy, get over it. I said, no. So we have to give him a place to put that energy. And so that's what we did. And Lisa was on board. She already knew lots of answers to what I was suggesting. She's worked really hard with her animals. So it was lovely because both of them were very open. Very different from Mama Cat, who I have never met a cat that didn't have an opinion, but I will say that, that Mama Cat definitely had opinions about what she felt should be happening.
Okay, so go into that. So you spoke to Bo, and then you had another session with Lisa's cats. All of them or just one of them?
Just the one.
Oh, okay. So was the mama cat?
Mhm.
Okay, and she leads the herd of the other cats probably. Is she the
Yes,
head?
because they are her kittens, the other two. Of course, they're 7 years old now, but she is their mother, and the two kittens are from the same litter. So they're literally all biologically related, but she is their mother.
Okay, what'd she say, Miranda? What did she say?
Uh, she let it clearly be known that what Bo was doing was inappropriate, that she has no issue with stopping him at whatever way she needs to, which
Ooh.
when you have claws, that you got to listen to that. Yeah. And that it was not something that she needed to prove, and it was not something that he needed to keep chasing. And so we worked at deeper levels as well that were nonverbal to support all of that. But it was fascinating because she stood her ground. She
Wow.
did. Yeah,
Mhm.
she did.
And was there any resolution to this, like between the two of them? Like, how are they planning on trying to get along? What, what are they going to do?
We have to give that time, but the focus is asking and presenting it in the first place instead of saying you shouldn't and you're wrong and you. It's like, hold on, we're taking into consideration the cultures of these beings. How can we be respectful of those cultures and work with it?
Well,
And I can tell you that since yesterday, not only did I already say that while we were talking, he changed and went outside, but my son, Caden, came up last night to my room and he said, Mom, you're not going to believe it. And I said, What? And I had told Miranda yesterday that I have this little stopper that I bought on Amazon. So the basement door doesn't close. So the cats can get up whenever they want
right.
to. So it's cracked open a little bit and he can see them. And normally he'll stand there at the door and, try to sniff them and try to get in and whatever. But he walked up to the door last night and the male cat that I have, Reggie, he was sitting there and Bo sniffed him. Of course, Reggie hissed, but Bo sniffed him, turned around, walked away. And he doesn't do that. And Miranda, I have to tell you too, it was funny this morning. I was going down the basement to do some laundry and he wanted to follow me down. And I told him, You can't come down with me. Normally, he sits at the top of the stairs and whines and cries until I come back up. He whined for a few minutes and I yelled from the basement. I said, Bo, remember the talk you had with Miranda? You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be calm. Remember, calm? He was quiet and didn't hear another word from him until I came back up.
I just didn't pay him enough at the time. I should have known.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, you
Thank you
really
for
had,
that, Lisa. I love knowing the follow-up. Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
yeah.
well, it's really interesting. So my session yesterday with Arthur, my 4-year-old little Yorkie, um, when we finished our session, I said to my boyfriend, like, I was so interested as to what Arthur felt about the time where we had to leave him with David's father for over 8 months, or about 8 months time after his mother passed away. And I had so many people say to me, How could you leave him? How could you leave him? And I didn't want to leave him with his dad. But at the same time, his dad lost his mother. He needed companionship. And I really couldn't argue on my side because then I looked like I wasn't being really compassionate toward his father. and being alone and 84 years old. So I was like, okay, if he needs Arthur, maybe, he's going to be a dog that right this minute is in another human needs to help through a transition. So I wanted to know if Arthur, now that we have him home, if he was upset with us leaving him. And I love that, Miranda, you said the problem was that Arthur told you he was mad or upset because we didn't ask him. He felt abandoned. And that makes a lot of sense to me. He felt like we just left him without considering his thoughts in the whole matter.
Yeah, he said he wasn't mad or upset, but he just would have appreciated being asked.
Yeah, just appreciated being part of the equation.
Hmm.
And that made a lot of sense to me. So, and it's funny, as soon as I got off the phone with you yesterday, he came barreling up at me, like running up at me. And it's as if I was gone for a long time and I was right in the same house. He could have come in here, but he stayed kind of right outside the door. He didn't come in the room, but the door was open, which I thought was funny. Like he didn't
Hmm.
come in and sit and like want to kind of be right in here. He sat right outside the door. And then as soon as I was finished, he ran up to me as if I'd been gone for all day and he was all excited to see me. And
Hmm.
even David was like, that's weird. Why he's like running up to you like that? I said, I don't know. Maybe he's just so happy that we're talking about him.
And, for instance, I mean, I had a cat who it started peeing on the couch. And this was an older cat that, not old, but I mean, was not a little kitty. And when the woman called me, and her husband thought she was crazy to even find me, when the woman called me, she said, I don't understand why my cat out of nowhere is now peeing on the couch. And so I asked the cat to show me what was going on. And what he showed me was that the two teenage children in the family were going out late at night. They were sneaking out of the house. So I told this woman that, and she, we hung up the call and she was doubtful, like, well, the husband was like, oh yeah, forget that one. But she stayed up late and she watched, and sure enough, she caught him climbing out the window, around 1 a.m. So, so that cat saw what was happening and helped bring the family together by saying, hold on, something's happening here you're not aware of.
But
Yeah.
that acting out, like they can act out to for us to obviously to notice that there's something going on and you got to get to the bottom of it as to why they're acting out, because out of the
And
blue.
yes, and actually, a lot of the times, Mary, what we are going through, our animals are picking up on. And if you look at it, they watch us 24/7.
Yeah.
They know more about us than possibly we know about them. But we don't always take into account that our breathing has changed, that the scent of our body is different, that our voice has changed and our energy is compromised. And all of that can affect them. And certainly how do they then get through to us? Sometimes it's a simple change in their behavior about what they're used to being with their human. It's an indication that your animal is trying to tell you something. And it has based on your thoughts. That's why it's important to ask what's going on.
Well, I can relate. I think most pet owners can probably relate to times when you're distraught, crying, upset, really highly charged and emotional, that my dog will come right up and know something's wrong. They know something is wrong. And I can say that George was a therapist to me so many times. I felt like he wore a lot of the good colors and the bad colors that I wore, like a lot of the strain that I had, George was there to comfort me. But I worry too that sometimes, like when my mother died, um, George had to absorb a lot of that. Uh, and I kind of worried about him too, like, oh my gosh, he's having to be with me and they crying all the time, not getting up out of bed, not eating, like just being a complete wreck. And I noticed that he didn't leave my side. Like, it's interesting. Tell us about that. Like animals, when people are distraught, what they feel or how they take over.
There's a caution about that, and that it is important that we communicate and explain what's going on. It's also amazing that they can administer to us. You know, what you never want to do is be upset and say to your animal, I'm okay. Because now you've just blown the trust that your animal had that you knew yourself. When we are going through so much stress, it is important to think about, as we can, what is this doing to the animal that lives with me? And it can affect them very definitely, but we also have interesting agreements with our animals where they're willing to do a certain amount to help us. They're willing to do that. I was just working with a beautiful little dog today who had been with his human for, oh my goodness, the dog was 16, I think, and been with his human for many years, and the human had to go into assisted living. And no one had really gotten to the dog to say that dog was dumped off at the SPCA. And this lovely couple found her and took her home. She couldn't see, she didn't hear, but she was so excited to be with these people. And she kept saying that they had given her life she never thought she would have again. You know,
Wow.
so but what she did say was she was old enough that she couldn't go to be with that human again, the one before, because she didn't have enough life source to support herself and her human. And the new human said, we wouldn't ask you to. You know, we wouldn't ask you to. Yeah. And I want to go back to George for just a minute. A lot of times people feel that
Sorry.
they may have mistreated their dog, or they may have not been as sensitive to their animal as they would like to be. And so I just want to suggest to you, Mary, that would be something for us to talk about George with him
I
about.
would love to do that.
Because honestly, what you don't want to do is carry around for the rest of your life that you somehow mistreated, or he'll tell you. I mean, animals are very forthcoming. They'll tell you if they feel that
I
way.
would love to talk further about him because I carry around a lot of guilt about the night that he passed because I was cooking and I had so many people for dinner. And one of the kids left the door open, and I had warned everybody, do not leave the door open. Please don't let George outside. And somebody allowed him to get outside. And while I was putting things on the table outside, he did try to climb up on my leg, but I kind of had so many things in my hand, I didn't pick him up at that moment. And I yelled for somebody to put him back inside. How did he get out? Well, no one picked him up and put him back inside. And so that thought of him coming up on my leg has never left my memory. I thought, if I picked him up right then, even though I was setting the table and putting stuff and cooking and it was chaotic, I thought he probably would still be here. And I often wonder, like, does George blame me for not picking him up at that particular moment? So I have a lot of trauma around it, you know.
Well, that's something that we should be asking him. So when we get together next, we will definitely do that and see what's going on with him. Animals will tell you. They will absolutely tell you. You know, and another part of all this is there many people are very concerned when they see their animal who appears to be in pain or suffering. And in using telepathic communication with the animal, I can sense where they have pain and what level of discomfort they're in. And in turn, the animals can tell me what their humans are doing that might be unwittingly aggravating their pain,
Yeah.
or if the human is So I have no doubt that George will let us know whatever that is going on when we do that. Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
think it's so important too. Is like, you gave me some pointers yesterday for Arthur, which was more like Lisa does this all the time because I'm on the phone with her often, and she's like talking to the dog like she's talking to one of her kids. Like she really, literally, play by
Mhm.
play talks to the dog. Where sometimes I'm like, I don't think he really understands what you're saying. But now for me with Arthur, when last night we went out for dinner, and Miranda had said, when you go out, you just tell him, I will be back. You guard the house. He literally stood back, did not come to the door. I said it to him. My boyfriend thought I was crazy, but I just went, Arthur, we're going to go out. you guard the house while we're gone, and we'll be back when it's dark out. So I'm going to put these porch lights on so that you'll see us walking up when we come back, but we'll only be gone a little bit, but it will be dark out. You need to guard the house." And he just was doing this with his head, doing this, but he just stayed back, didn't have a problem, laid down, and I waved through the window.
I appreciate both of you so much. You followed through with what what we discussed. Thank you, thank you. Because most people, when they leave, "Oh, I'm gonna miss you. I'm sorry," and I do, and then they wonder why the animal starts having separation anxiety. But you nailed it, Mary. I mean, you just said these are the facts. This is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to do. See you later.
Well, I feel like I have a new renewed relationship with him ever since we spoke, because now I'm actually like, he's not the dog. He's now Arthur at a different level, right? Like now I'm actually communicating with him for the last 24 hours. I've been like communicating with him more so, like
Good.
in a different way, like more like I'm talking to one of my kids. So Miranda, how do people like get a hold of you? And just say a little bit, like, because I really want people to experience what Lisa and I have experienced. And I know many people out there have problems with their animals. So how do they like, what do they have to do? We did an intake form with you.
Yeah, so they go to mirandaalcott.com, ALCOTT, two T's. And that's where you can find out about the different types of appointments that I do. I do posthumous, meaning that the animal has already left this body. We do emergency 911, as in critical care, ICU. And that's a different situation, but it's there online. Also, I do some human counseling because I'm a human counselor as well. And behavior. So behavior, health, emergency, all of that happens. Then if you're interested in any of the courses that I teach, because I teach them online, you just go to Miranda Alcott courses, and both of the sites are linked, and
And
you'll
tell
see.
us about those courses, because I'm interested to know what those courses are.
So the level one is beginning animal communication, actually working with exercises, meditations, animals, pictures, and each other. We have breakout rooms. Level two is more about your animal and you. It's more focused on the human side of what are you doing in your life that may be affecting your animal. And then the level three is mentoring. The level one and level two are 6 classes, are 2 hours each for the first 5, and the last one is 3 hours. And the mentoring is 10 hours. But you have to have gone through the first 2, and then we still talk about it before I take on someone as a mentee.
That brings up the question then, does your ability like go to humans as well, or you just sort of focus more on animals?
I was just gonna ask that, Lise. Just gonna ask that.
Yes, I do. I do work with humans as well. Um, it's interesting. Uh, when I started at a very young age, professionally, I started actually receiving money when I was 19 for working with humans. And because I started with animals were just a natural to me. And my teachers, most of whom were not in physical form, said, you need to be, working with the animals. And I said, why? And they said, because more people will come to you about their animals, and you can then work with them as humans.
Is it because we use language? We have so many barriers. They live off of energy. I mean, energy is what they feel. I think they communicate more from their heart and their soul.
You got it, Mary. That's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. And we have put such definitions on, oh yeah, if there's a child that doesn't speak, well, then they're not really in there. Wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is really wonderful what's happening with some of those kids. They are so blessed. Their telepathy is incredible. Yeah, it's incredible what's going on now because we're hopefully waking up more.
Well, Miranda, you are a beam of light. And I'm so grateful that you spoke to us today. And I think I have a different relationship with Arthur. And I know that Bo's He's got some mending to do with those cats. Let's see. Let's see how he does. We have to tell Miranda how it's going with that situation.
Yeah, so far so good. He seems to have, come along since just yesterday, but I think it's going to be more the cats now coming along. Let's see how they do. Before we go,
Wow.
I do have one question for you though about, when you're in person with an animal, it's one thing, but yesterday, of course, Mary and I were talking to you over the phone. How do you tap into these animals when you're not with them?
Telepathically.
Okay.
So we have so many different frequencies we can all work on. We
Mhm.
do. And sometimes some pathways are clearer than others, but I've also been doing this for a very long time.
Mhm.
And I also have worked to clear. And being a counselor, you don't get to be a counselor without working on your own stuff. The University of Santa Monica has an incredible program in spiritual psychology, how I got my master's. A few decades ago, they are still intact and really wonderful. So, I mean, there are many things I would suggest to do the self work, to hold in place, because a lot of people want to reach and say, oh, I want to do that right now. There are a lot of people teaching classes and giving certifications on a weekend, for a weekend. No, no. I'm still asked, will I certify? No, I won't. Because the certification comes with people coming to you. You will then be at a frequency that you will draw people to you.
Mhm.
And so it's not about, oh yeah, I studied with or I did so and so. It's about you study with those people, but you also do your own work within yourself to make room
Right.
for what's coming. Otherwise, you're just putting it on top of a foundation that is not clear and solid. Yeah. And I have enjoyed being here, Mary. This
Thank
is
you so
lovely.
much.
Lisa, thank you.
Thank
Working
you.
with both of you, you're so open and willing and caring and very loving people. Thank you for what each of
Thank
you.
you for being on and gracing my podcast with your presence. And Lisa, I've loved having you on my podcast for the very first time. Please come back anytime.
I will. We'll come back. We'll find other things to talk about. And thank you so much, Miranda. I already see a difference in my dog. So I think that, we're on the right path.
Well, and don't forget to go up on the hill as often as
We
possible.
went last night.
Oh,
We went
excellent.
last night and he just ran. I mean, he was kicking dirt up behind him. He was running so fast.
Good. And the hill has many meanings in different cultures. So good.
Good.
Excellent.
Okay, well, have a wonderful afternoon and thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. And we'll be seeing you soon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Mary, for having me too.
Okay, of course. Love you. Okay,
Love you
bye
too.
bye.